Can you imagine stealing hundreds of millions of dollars that were meant to feed the hungry children and then disappearing? Not for weeks, not for months, but for 4 long years. Well, that's exactly what the US investigators allege happened in one of America's biggest pandemic fraud cases. The FBI has finally arrested an alleged key suspect in Somalia in connection with the massive Feeding Our Future fraud investigation. According to the US prosecutors, more than $250 million in federal child nutrition funds were fraudulently diverted during the COVID-19 pandemic. In fact, the money, it was originally meant to provide meals for children when schools were closed because of the pandemic. But instead, investigators claim that fake meal sites were created, false documents were submitted, and millions of taxpayers' dollars all disappeared. In fact, for years, American investigators tracked financial records, bank transfers, and international movements before finally locating the alleged fraud suspect in Somalia. The whole arrest highlights how financial crime today, they are no longer limited to borders here. Money can move across countries in seconds, but investigators are also becoming increasingly skilled at following the digital trail here. In the meantime, American officials say that the investigation is still continuing and more arrests could follow. This particular case, it also raises a larger question here. How did such a massive fraud continue for such a long time without being detected? Here, many experts believe that emergency spending during the pandemic happened so quickly that oversight became weaker, creating opportunity for the organized fraud. Well, it's kind of a reminder that during every global crisis, there's always people who are willing to exploit those in need. And yes, while America is fighting financial fraud, another Western democracy is facing an entirely different debate. A debate over religion, a debate over identity, and a debate over immigration. Because thousands of kilometers away from America, one European country is asking a very controversial question. Should the Islamic call to prayer be banned or not? When people think about America, they usually imagine modern cities, busy highways, and comfortable lifestyle. But this particular week, millions of Americans are facing something far more dangerous: extreme heat. Not ordinary summer heat here, but a heat wave so intense that weather experts are calling it life-threatening. Well, across large parts of the United States, temperatures are rising above normal level, while high humidity is making the weather feel even worse. In fact, in some places, the temperature people actually feel, it is touching an unbelievable 46 degrees Celsius. More than 130 million Americans, they are already under heat alert. In fact, states across eastern and central United States are experiencing dangerous conditions, while cities including New York, Washington, Philadelphia, in fact Chicago, Dallas, they are all preparing for one of the hottest weeks of the year. But the real danger, that's not just the temperature here, it's the humidity. Doctors say that when humidity becomes extremely high, well, the human body, it finds it much harder to cool itself through sweating. Well, that increases the risk of dehydration, in fact, heat exhaustion, and even deadly heat stroke. In the meantime, weather experts are specifically worried because the whole heat, it is continuing even during the night time. In fact, in many cities, temperatures are not dropping enough after sunset, leaving people without any air conditioning with almost no relief. Hospitals are preparing for an increase in heat-related emergencies, while authorities are asking people to stay indoors, drink plenty of water, and avoid any unnecessary outdoor activity. And yes, at the very same time, the Western United States is battling another crisis, that is wildfire. The combination of hot weather, dry winds, and low rainfall, it has created an ideal condition for fire to spread rapidly. In fact, in some states, they are already witnessing dangerous wildfire activity, and firefighters, they are working around the clock to contain the flame. Sadly, 3 firefighters have already lost their lives while battling one of these fast-moving fires. Ladies and gentlemen, climate experts say that extreme weather events, they are becoming more frequent and more intense, making the whole summer increasingly dangerous across the world. And while America battles nature's fury, another story, it is showing how investigators spend years tracking a man accused of one of the biggest frauds in the recent American history.